Hello everyone, this is the great Lord and Master Osiron, the Eternal, for what is the first video of the year 2018. The first video I've made in the year of 2018. And this is a special day in a lot of ways. One, it's a Tuesday. It's also a full moon. But this year, 2018, is also a 2-year. So last year was a 1-year, and this year is a 2-year. And I think this video is going to be a great way to break in that year, the year of the 2. Because it's going to deal with 2 main topics, and one of those topics is called the I Ching. I've touched on this on a couple other videos, but I want to really highlight something here because this is important. Okay, what you're going to see here is the I Ching symbols, you know, the yin and yang and the trigrams and the hexagrams. But if you'll notice in the last video, in this sub-series here, the first video, The Nature of 8, I got into the I Ching again, and I had the traditional order of the lines is this: the solid lines in the traditional order, the solid line would be yang and the broken line would be yin. But on my last video, the Nature of 8 video, I had those reversed, and I'm going to show you why I reverse them. Now, okay, now when you take the base line, you got the base system of the I Ching is solid and broken lines, okay? And there's another way you can look at that. You can look at it as a single line and then 2 lines. You know? So if you take the root of the system, which is the lines here, the 2 lines, well, the solid line is 1 line, okay, and that is yin. And the broken line is actually 2 lines, and that's yang. And we know from the previous videos that 1 is feminine and 2 is masculine. In the single digit code, the single digit code appears to be a system that, it's a system of systems. It's a way to create systems, is what it is. And the beauty of the single digit code is you can't lie. You can't create false systems when you use it, as we've seen with the true tree of life and all that, because as long as you follow the rules of nature, is that the feminine precedes the masculine, and then write out the numbers in a normal way. You can't create anything but truth. That's why it's so good. So this solid line, the solid lines are actually yin, and the broken lines are actually yang. And we know that because the solid line is 1 line, and the broken lines are made up of 2 lines. That gives you a 1 and a 2. But it goes even farther than that. And what you get when you put these lines in their trigram formations is, here are the 2 root trigrams. You got all solid lines, and then its polar opposite is all broken lines. Well, when you add the number of lines used in this construct, the solid lines are 3 lines, which is, we know, the feminine masculine kundalini of a 3, and the broken lines form 6 lines, which is a masculine mask of kundalini again. So it's the single digit code is telling you how to construct the I Ching as well. So now what you do is, you got this is 3 and this is 6, and this is the root structure. This is a singular aspect of the trigrams. But when you double them and use 2 of them, you get hexagrams, okay? And now we're seeing a reversal. We're seeing what happens sort of through the perspective of the material world of duality, is what this is, because this is made up of 2 trigrams, is a hexagram. And so when you take 2, 3 hexagrams, then it gives you 6 lines here. And then this, when you take 2 masculine trigrams of 6 and 6, it forms 12, which reduces to 3. So then it gives you a 6-3 presentation. But remember, this is only the material world here. This is sort of like the difference between the true tree and the jewel, which is the true tree and the jewel here. Okay, I'm going to get into more of the I Ching in a few minutes, but I want to sort of deviate to the other part here for a minute because it sort of, these two segments interact and mesh together importantly. Now what you see here is the numbers written out into their 1 through 9 sequence. And then if you remember from the previous two videos in this sub-series, which I'm going to call like God is a Woman series and put this in it, the first 6 numbers here reduce to a 3, and then the last 3 become 6 to give you another 3-6 presentation. But now what happens when you isolate the Kundalini numbers, because if you remember, I think it was in part 8 or the video 8, the nature of 8. I think that's where I got into this, but where I said the sequence of numbers are broken down into quadrants. You got the Kundalini numbers assisting in the creation process, but it only happens in the first 3 spots. So the 1 and 2 has a Kundalini, the 3 and 4 has a 3 for Kundalini, and then it reverses and shifts, then the 5 and the 6 Kundalini, and then the 7 and 8 are terrestrial numbers, and they don't have a Kundalini assistance, and this is also the 4th position. I think it was 8, the nature of 8 video where I covered this. But if you take in these first 6 numbers, 1 through 6, and you separate the Kundalini numbers of 1, 3, and 6, because remember, 1 can traverse both realms. If you take the 1, 3, and 6 and combine those numbers, that reduces to a 1. Okay, and then if you take the remaining numbers, what I call the terrestrial numbers of 2, 4, and 5, those reduce to a 2. So it's telling you what numbers come first. It tells you what comes first. The feminine precedes the masculine, but it also shows, like as in on the true tree of life, that the Kundalini pillar precedes the masculine pillar. Okay, so we got the 1, 3, 6 is becoming 1, and then the 2, 4, 5 reduced to 2. You combine the 1 and the 2, and that gives you 3. And then the remaining numbers that are left is the 7 and the 8 and the 9. But if you add the 7 and the 8, that becomes 15, which is the card of the devil, and that reduces to a 6, and that gives you the 6 presentation. So it's giving you the 3 and the 6 presentation like that. And if you were to add the 9 to this numbers, it would make this 15 a 24, which is still showing you the nature of the terrestrial aspect, because it's the 2 and the 4 on the pillar of I Ching here, and these are the pure masculine essence of the first 2 sections of the tree of life. So it's a win-win either way, and you can't, you know what I mean? So, and now, but to even expound on that further, if you take all of the numbers, because remember, this is only using the first 6 numbers here for this little equation that gives you the 1 and the 2 and then a 3. But if you were to use all the numbers, and you separate the Kundalini numbers, so you're taking 1 through 8 in this case, because 9 is 0. If you're taking, but again, it wouldn't matter if you used it, but if you take the Kundalini numbers of 1, 3, and 6, that of course reduces to a 1. And then if you take the remaining terrestrial numbers of 2, 4, 5, 7, and 8, and reduce those become an 8, and that's giving you the 1 and the 8 presentation. And that's also what happens when you multiply the pillar of Boaz. When you multiply 6, 3, and 1, that gives you an 18. And then when you add these, if you remember, it gives you a 10. So it's giving you both. It's giving you everything on the pillar of Boaz. That's how important this Kundalini pillar is. It's telling you that Kundalini is everything. Kundalini is in everything. And Kundalini also precedes the material matrix. So it is literally 0 and 9. It's a 0-9 aspect. It's telling you, it's showing you the proper construction of the tree of life. So the number system, again, the single digit code, 100% validates the true tree of life as being the proper code for that structure. And it's showing you again and again and again how that happens. And now to get to the true tree, I got this again because it's so important, but now if you look at the true tree of life here, we've got the true tree of life and the jewel of creation, which is Malkuth. And if you look at it properly, you see Malkuth isn't really a part of the previous tree. It is, but it's sort of like the idea that, remember, the material matrix has Kundalini flowing through it, so it is Kundalini, but it's just expressing itself as electricity. That's the whole point of this, of the pillar of Boaz and Yakin. That's the story that's telling you. And the child, or the jewel of creation, is Malkuth. That's what that means. But if you look at this pillar, the pillar of Boaz, as the Kundalini pillar, which is 1, 3, and 6, and this is the terrestrial pillar again of 2, 4, and 7, and of course the middle pillar is the balance of 5 and 8, it's showing you that again. And it shows you the number sequence. We see the 1 through 9, well, it's doing exactly what happens with the Kundalini. So we got 1 and 2 here, and then we got 0 here, but then we got 1 and 2 here. It's going Kundalini terrestrial. Then we have it here, 1 and 2, Kundalini terrestrial. And then we got 3 and 4, which is Kundalini terrestrial. And then the next number is 3 and 4, which is Kundalini and terrestrial. And then it shifts. And then after that 4 is established, then it gives you the 5 for the elements, and then it goes to Kundalini after that. So, and then it shifts here too. The 5 to the 6 is a shift. And then it goes 5 to the 6. And then that leaves you with the last 2 Sephirot of 7 and 8, which again, if you add these together, that becomes 15, which is the devil, and then reduces to a 6. So, and then Malkuth is a separate construct outside of that. So this is the material world. This is the entire universe here. And that's why it starts. It can start with a 1, because 0 is implied by the boundary of that 1. So this is a construct. This is a body. This is the physical universe and everything in it. And 0 is implied by the boundary of the 1. And that's why you don't have to add 0 to the jewel of creation. That's why the jewel of creation only uses 9 numbers. And the only reason you use 10 for the entire tree is because you're showing the single digit code, and then 9 is the fusion of the Kundalini elements and the material elements. That's why 0 and 9 are used in that manner. And I also get into this. If you want to see why the numbers, a great video for why the numbers work like that, watch the video of the single digit code, the paradox of 0. It will show you clearly and irrefutably that this is the proper code for both the true tree and the jewel. And see, when you fuse the jewel back onto the true tree, there really isn't a Malkuth anymore, okay? Because these nine Sephirot fuse back onto the upper 9 Sephirot, and there really is no stump on the tree anymore, really. It turns the whole thing turns into a jewel. It's a single unit, you know. And then I believe, I got to check on this, but if you remember, but what that means is there's tarot pathways that only get used once, and I'm pretty sure those add up to 14, which is temperance. And as we know on the Osiron Tarot Spiral, the 12th house of the Zodiac, which is Sagittarius, or the 9th house, I'm sorry, the 9th house of the Zodiac, which is Sagittarius, is also the alleyway from 0 state to the physical world. And we're seeing that again here. But I got to check on that, because I'm 99% sure that's the case. But that's that. Now, one other thing I want to show on the true tree of life and how it reveals the single digit code in the machinations of the structure is, if you remember in traditional Kabbalah, remember these are all broken into worlds, okay? You got the upper world, the middle world, you got the third world here, and then the kingdom is Malkuth. And as I postulate over and over again, that the true order of the elements is water, fire, air, and then earth. And that, as I've shown in several videos now, that is 100% correct, that order. And we're going to see something beautiful in the machinations of this. If you take the water world here, the world of water, the element of water, which is the supernal triangle, that is comprised of 3 Sephirot, okay? The 0 state, and then its components of 1 and 2. Okay, those are 3 Sephirot. And then when you break down into the next 2 worlds, and what do we see here? We got the yin trigram, and if you combine two of those, it gives you 6. Well, it's the same thing on the tree of life. This is made of a 3 and a 3. Remember, 33. And you combine that, that's 6. So now you're seeing a 3 and a 6 aspect to the upper level of the tree of life, and then the 9 is Malkuth. But it's even better than that, because the elemental structure of it is water is a feminine element, and we see the feminine 3. And then the lower two sections here form a 6 for the 6 Sephiroth used. In both of these elements, in both of these worlds, are the two masculine elements. You got fire and then air. Okay, and it was seeing that as a confirmation of the 6. So these are the two masculine elements of fire and air. And then all of this together creates the earth, which is 9. So on the true tree of life and the jewel, we're seeing the 3, 6, and 9 of the single digit code again. And it also shows up in the middle pillar of both structures, a 3, 6, 9 correlation of both. So this is absolutely amazing. And again, the single digit code is the builder of systems, because you can't lie, you can't cheat, you can't create falseness when you use the single digit code. The single digit code is the purity of truth, and if you use it to construct your esoteric systems, you can't fail and you can't create falseness. Because one of the things I'm still getting from people who like to argue with me is that they say, oh, well, the tree of life isn't just about numbers. And no one has ever said that. I have never said that the tree of life is only about numbers. What it does is, when you use the proper number code, the numbers are the bones of the system. The numbers are the roots. The number system tells you how to construct the esoteric system. And then once you do that, the esoteric aspects of the tree actually come alive much better than they do with the false tree, because the false tree, the Kabbalistic tree of death and stagnation, is a false deceptive construct that puts the masculine before the feminine. And it's showing proof positive. The single digit code does one thing. It proves that Abrahamic philosophy and Kabbalistic philosophy is 100% garbage and false. So Abrahamic philosophy is toxic trash, and the single digit code shows you that irrefutably. Right now, one thing I want to jump to, because this is very important here. See, what I've shown in the earlier part of this video is the proper way to formulate the I Ching, and the single digit code tells you how to do that with the 1, 2, and the 3 and 6. But then, what you got to figure out is, you got to, because the 64 hexagrams, in the order of them, I have to do more work, and I'm working on this right now, but this will be a separate video because it's so important. I'm trying to isolate the proper order of the hexagrams. And the way that I'm doing that is I'm isolating the proper order sequence on the, because if you build it in a grid, there'll be 8 on top and then 8 on the bottom, and I'm working on that right now, that order. But I've isolated the pairs, because every single trigram has a pair, has an opposite pair to go with it, and they're brother and sister, okay? And the single digit code is going to show you that these are proper. It's going to tell you the order of how they go, okay? So now you got the 3 and the 6 pair. This is the root pair. This is all feminine or all yin, and the 6 is all yang, okay? And then you got to ask yourself, what's the next logical step to introduce duality into this thing? Well, the next logical step is you have to infuse a masculine element into the 3, and then you have to infuse a feminine element into the 6. And what's the most logical space to do that? The most logical space for equilibrium and balance would be in the dead center of the trigram here, and we're seeing that here. So when you add a masculine center piece to this trigram and a feminine centerpiece to this one, it reveals these two trigrams, okay? And now the single digit code is going to validate this as true, okay? Because the number of lines used in this construct is 4. There's 4 lines used. You got 2 solids and then 1 broken line. So that gives you 4. And on this side it gives you 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the single digit code is showing you that. And then what does 4 and 5 become? 9. So now, this secondary aspect is telling you how to construct the next two templates. It's telling you the order to put them in. Because now, these next two trigrams, the yin side has 2 yin and 1 yang, and the other side has 2 yin and 1 yang, but they're mirrored opposites, okay? And both of these are made up of four lines each, to give you 4 and a 4. And then the last pairings are 2 yang and 1 yin on this side, and the other side is the exact reverse of that, with 2 yang up here and 1 yin. And these are comprised of 5 lines each. So the single digit code is validating this as the order, the proper order of the trigram. So it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay? And the single digit code is validating that it's true. So the Kundalini, the 3 and the 6, the root of it is Kundalini, 3 and 6. Okay, and then when you get into the actual terrestrial numbers, there's 3 groups. There's 3 groups. Okay, there's 3 pairs, but that forms 6 total. So again, we're seeing the 3-6 correlation show up in this. This is the single digit code is just sublime. But what you're seeing is the numbers tell you how to do it. So you got the 4 and the 5 is here, it's telling you, and then the next 2 sets are all 4 and all 5, and it's telling you what order to put them in. So these are yin dominant, because they have 2 solid lines. These are yin dominant, and this is masculine dominant. So it's showing, again, the feminine precedes the masculine here. And the same thing here. You got 2 yin, the 4, and then you got 2 yang and 5. So this is the proper order for the trigrams. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay? And now it comes down. Right now I'm working on decoding this, because just because this goes in order, it doesn't mean it has to go in order. There's a couple of ways I'm working on that, and I'm not finished yet. It's going to take a while. But so that is that. So this is the I Ching and the single digit code, the year of the 2. And you'll also notice I got some new markers. And look at all the colors on this. I'm using all kinds of crazy colors. See, I kind of messed up a little bit with this. I hope this comes out and shows properly, because I used pink for the feminine and purple for the masculine in this case, but it kind of looks like, the pink kind of looks like red, and the purple kind of looks like blue, so it might look confusing, especially over here. Like, because from a distance it might look like the yin lines are actually red for yang, and the fucking yang lines are blue for, but that's not what it is. But these are all big enough to show clearly what's going on. So this is it. This is the opening video for 2018. I think we're on a powerful line of thought here, because this is amazing. As a matter of fact, I Ching is one of the oldest books I have. I got this when I was like my early 20s, like 21 or something like that. This is a copy of the I Ching, and you can see the pages are all yellowed. I got this one, this is like old as shit right now, and this has all the information about it and stuff. But the order in here appears to be false too. Again, something happened in the ancient past where all of these cultures, because this is multicultural, this spreads through globally, something happened to the knowledge base to where the cultures of the world insisted on putting the masculine before the feminine, and this is most prominent in Abrahamism. It's most perverse in Abrahamism too. But part of the great work here is reversing that and putting the feminine in its proper place. Because the previous video I made before this shows it was the Osiron Spiral 9 and the something like that. Osiron Tarot Spiral 9, the Tarot, Zodiac, and Hard Science, and it showed the nature of the atom, where the protons and neutrons are actually feminine and neutral, and the masculine electron is the active principle that encircles those. So, but even in mythology, I've seen a lot of mythology where they use the atom analogy and they reverse it. They call the masculine the proton, the neutron the child, and then they call the feminine perspective the active principle that circles it. I mean, how ass backwards can you get? because that just defies nature. Because the proton, the nature of woman is to attract, and the nature of man is the doing active process. So it's obvious the proton is feminine, the neutron is her child, and the active principle is the electron that circles and moves around that. And the electrons can bounce from one atom to another too. Electrons can leave one atom and go to another, and that's what an ion is. An ion is a fucking mismatched electron-proton ratio. So one of them is going to be, it's a charged particle, and that's what an ion is. So when the electrons and protons are on an alignment, that's what an ion is. It is either going to be a positive ion or a negative ion, depending on what the charge is. It's either an attractive charge or a repelling charge. That's all it is. So thank you and namaste, and that is it for now. Thank you.